Hello, 49er fans. This is Jack Hammer, live from Levi Stadium, where the 49ers were able to solidify their spot in the playoffs this week with a big 31-13 victory over the Atlanta Falcons. Want to take a look today at some of the different answers to the questions that we asked on Saturday. Let's go ahead and take a look. For the 49ers, their offense was able to march up and down the field, and they had a defense that was able to hold Atlanta scoreless on 3 separate possessions that would go deep into the red zone, and the 49ers would pull away in the third quarter. Number one, can Jimmy Garoppolo stay hot? Absolutely yes. Jimmy Garoppolo had another strong performance, completing 17 of his 22 pass attempts for 235 yards and 1 touchdown. 3 of Garoppolo's 5 incompletions were the result of drops. Unfortunately, it was Jawan Jennings on the other end, and then there was another one that was tipped by the defensive end when he was rolling to his left down on one of the 49ers possessions early in the ball game in the first quarter. The 49ers passing offense, though, had several explosive plays against Atlanta. After being held to a quick 3-and-out to open the game, Garoppolo was able to start the next 3 possessions with a completion to George Kittle for 25 yards, to Brandon Ayuk for 36 yards, and then a 30-yarder to Deebo Samuel. Those 3 big starts to those drives would result in 17 points for the 49ers and help them go into the locker room at halftime with a 17-10 lead. San Francisco would then force a turnover to open the second half, and the offense would once again take advantage, this time with a short field. Starting from the Atlanta 38, Garoppolo would find George Kittle for a gain of 13, and then he'd hit Deebo Samuel for a gain of 21. That completion to Deebo Samuel would end with a play that looked like a scene from a heavyweight boxing match, as Deebo Samuel would hit the Falcons defensive back so hard that the mouthpiece from the Falcons defender would go flying down the field. It almost looked like when you see, if you watch the old Rocky movies, when Rocky hits Apollo with the hard uppercut and Apollo's mouthpiece goes flying into the over the ropes. That's pretty much what that hit from Samuel looked like. Also, last week, Garoppolo was sacked 5 times in Cincinnati. Today, the Falcons weren't able to get to him at all, and the veteran quarterback was able to move around just enough to get the ball out of his hands to avoid sacks and keep plays alive. Those were key moments in the game today. Thanks for those of you that are joining in. There's James. We're going to get to that. Special teams is going to do this in January. We're going to have a little bit of a discussion on special teams here in a few minutes. GV says a win's a win, but Kyle let off the gas. We should smash the Falcons. Great Jack, 3rd down was bad. Well, need to help at corner down the way. We'll get to that one as well here in just in a little bit, because the special teams is definitely an issue. And as far as Kyle Shanahan's game calling, I don't have too much of an issue with it, but we'll discuss that here in a minute. Getting to question number 2, and that was with regards to the 49ers running game. Can the 49ers find consistency there? And again, that's yes. The 49ers had struggled the last couple of weeks, gaining a total of 171 yards combined in their loss up in Seattle, and then last week in their victory in Cincinnati. Today, they were able to get it going in a big way, picking up 162 yards on 32 rushing attempts, with 3 different runners getting into the end zone. Jeff Wilson Jr. led the way. The veteran missed several weeks early in the season due to injury, but over the last couple of weeks, he looks like he is fully healthy finally. Wilson had several tough carries today and showed off his vision on the way to 110 yards and a touchdown on only 21 carries. Since moving into more of a running back role against the Los Angeles Rams, Deebo Samuel has rushed for at least 1 touchdown in each game. Samuel was able to keep that streak alive today with the 10-yard touchdown with only 33 seconds remaining in the first half. They gave the 49ers that 17-10 lead going into the halftime, and really a big advantage for them, especially with the way the second half opened up. And last but not least, Kyle Juszczyk. The fullback would take a quick handoff and take it in the end zone for a score from 6 yards out. That was actually the 49ers' first touchdown of the day. Also, one of the things that we had talked about before the game was the interior of the offensive line needing to deal with Grady Jarrett. Grady Jarrett, really the best defensive lineman for Atlanta. They were able to hold him to only 6 tackles, but none of those were tackles for loss. So a really good job today by Alex Mack, Daniel Brunskill, and Laken Tomlinson in the middle. Number 3, was about the 49ers defense being able to limit Cordero Patterson. And that was an absolute yes. That was one of the keys coming into this game. Cordero Patterson has been one of Atlanta's best offensive weapons all year long. The wide receiver / running back came into Sunday averaging 14 touches and 88 yards per game. San Francisco, though, would do a number on Patterson, holding him to a season-low 23 total yards on 13 touches. The 49ers defense showed it would be a tough day for Patterson right from the beginning. After JaMychal Hasty fumbled the opening kickoff, the San Francisco defense quickly found itself backed up and facing first and goal at the 1-yard line. Atlanta would try to get Patterson around the edge on 2 separate occasions, and both times the San Francisco defense would step up and drop him for no gain. That would become a turning point and also a theme in this game, as Atlanta would go for it on 4th and goal, only to come away with 0 points, and then we'd also see them do that 2 other times. The San Francisco defense would hold the Falcons scoreless on 3 drives that went deep into their red zone, stopping Atlanta on 4th and 1, 2 times from the 1-yard line, the one on the opening possession, and again later on in the game, and then also on a 4th and 1 at the 49ers 8-yard line. So a really good job by the 49ers defense there to not allow points in situations that really would have changed the whole game. If Atlanta gets points on the board right there, even if it's only a field goal, that's going to help them out. But especially if they get that touchdown, with the way that game was opening up and the way we've seen the 49ers open up games and have trouble with special teams like that in other moments, that would have been huge. And the defense did a great job of stepping up and taking that load off of the special teams. But that's definitely, like I mentioned earlier, something that we'll be talking about here in this show before we sign out. Number 4, will the 49ers defense get to Matt Ryan? That's a yes. In addition to shutting down Patterson, the San Francisco defense did a good job of shutting down Matt Ryan for the most part. While Ryan would complete 19 of 32 attempts for 236 yards and a touchdown, he would be shut down for much of the game. Of Ryan's 236 yards passing, 128 of them would come on only 3 passes. Those were the 2 49-yard completions on deep throws, one down the middle that beat Josh Norman, another one over the top of Ambry Thomas. And then also, he had a 20-yard touchdown to Russell Gage over Ambry Thomas early in the second quarter that tied the game up at 10. But other than those 3, he didn't do a whole lot. And that touchdown to Gage never even should have occurred. That was just a bad call on the roughing the passer against Arden Key when he landed on top of Ryan. I understand that that's what the rule states, is that if you can't land on top of the quarterback, but I'm not really sure how Key is supposed to be able to turn his body midair and not land on top of him, especially in that situation where he's behind the quarterback, not sure where he is. It's not like he's hitting him straight in the face and trying to drive him into the ground. There's got to be some way that the NFL can change that rule. It's already a rule that is somewhat a judgment call, and there's something that they need to take a look at for sure moving forward here in the 2022. Atlanta's pass protection, though, had been very good on the road coming into this game, allowing only 1.3 sacks per game. But on Sunday, the 49ers pass rush did a really good job of making Ryan uncomfortable throughout the game, and Samson Ebukam, Nick Bosa, and Arden Key each recorded a sack to lead the way. In fact, the 49ers recorded 10 hits on Ryan today. The big ones were after Ebukam, starting the second half. Samson Ebukam comes out with a sack on the first play of the second half of Ryan, and then just 2 plays later, Nick Bosa gets him from behind, forces the fumble, which was recovered by linebacker Fred Warner. That sets up the 49ers' first offense in really good position to start off their first drive of the second half, and they take it from there into the end zone, 38 yards, and get a commanding 24-10 lead that they're never going to look back from. And last but not least, can San Francisco hold on to the ball? That's yes after the opening play of the game. When JaMychal Hasty fumbled away that opening kickoff, you could feel the entire energy in the stadium go away, just kind of poof. And it looked like it was going to be bad. It looked as though it was going to be just another lost game for the 49ers, deep in their territory. Even had Atlanta, it looked like they scored a touchdown on the run by Patterson around the right side, but the replay showed that he wasn't in. And then from there, the 49ers defense went to work, held them out of the end zone. And the 49ers were, from that point on, able to hold on to the ball the rest of the way and not turn it over. In fact, as I mentioned earlier, it was Atlanta, though, that made the critical error on that Ryan lost fumble that gave the 49ers good field position that they then cash in. So those are the outlook from myself as far as the game. The one thing that I think needs to be looked at is the special teams. The special teams is definitely an issue with this team. and definitely a problem that they need to take a look at. How you doing, Max? Great to have you on board. When you look at this game and you look at the issues that they're having on special teams, it's not just the fumbles. It's, the 49ers scoring a touchdown to go up 10-3. Then on the ensuing kickoff, you have Atlanta returning it all the way out to the 35, I believe it was, giving them a short field. And then from there, they take it down and score a touchdown to tie the game up at 10. And then even there, even at the start of the second half, you open up the second half, you're not getting the ball because you lost the coin toss and Atlanta had deferred, and they open it up and it's a short kick by Bushnowski. It only gets to the 7-yard line, and from there the Atlanta return man is able to get it all the way out to the 40. So that would give them a great, a really good opportunity right there with a somewhat of a short field, starting at their own 40-yard line. Only have to go 60 yards, really only having to get about 30 in order to get into field goal position. And that's where the key, the Arden Key sack, or excuse me, the Samson Ebicom sack is so huge. It drops them back. They complete a short pass for about 10, but then you get the sack fumble by Bosa. So, the 49ers special teams is definitely an issue. They're also not returning the ball very well. You had the fumble by Hasty to open up the game, and then the next return from Hasty bounces in front of him, and then he tries to grab it, bounces off of it. He has to grab it because it's a live ball. Then it bounces off of his hands and rolls out of bounds, and the 49ers offense gets backed up at their own 9. So when you look at this game, the 49ers, because of poor special teams play, the 49ers started off at their own 1-yard line the first time they had the ball, and then they start off at their own 9 the second time they have the ball. That was very reminiscent of what happened up in Seattle, except for this time, the 49ers were only didn't turn the ball over and only had the one 3 and out there on it. The other times, the second time when they were at their own 9, they were able to drive down the field. They didn't get in the end zone on that drive, but they were able to get a field goal, get points on the board, and that was a positive there. GV, let's go back to this comment from earlier. He says, a win's a win, but Kyle let off the gas. We should smash the Falcons. Third down, D was bad for a while. Need help at corner down the way. Well, I don't. Here's the thing with that. The letting off the gas. I don't know how much I would say they let off the gas. The 49ers were up 31-14, and it's at that point you want to try to run clock. And on top of that, there was a couple of passes that he threw. One of them bounced off of Juwan Jennings' hands across the middle that would have extended a drive. It's hard to say that it's just it was all play calling, because some of that was a lack of being able to get out there and just get it done by the offense. Execution is key, and when the quarterback puts the ball in the hands of the receiver, they got to catch it. And when you don't do that, it's hard, and it usually will fall back on the coach, or at least that's what you see like this comment here. But I wouldn't say that it was necessarily letting off the gas. I think they were just trying to get the clock down, and then when they did throw the ball, they didn't execute very well. Yeah, and James mentions here, special teams is going to do this team in January, and I agree. If the special teams continues to play the way that they have been, especially their kickoff coverage, it's going to be it could be a really big problem for the 49ers. Imagine going into Tampa Bay, if that's where the 49ers have to go for their first round game, and having Tom Brady starting off, out at the 35 or 40-yard line. That's a completely different situation than Matt Ryan and an Atlanta team that doesn't have the weapons that a team like Tampa Bay has. They got away with it a little bit here today because Atlanta, quite frankly, just doesn't have the weapons that even the 49ers have. It was pretty much the Cordero Patterson show, a little bit of Kyle Pitts, but even Kyle Pitts at times today didn't look like he even knew where he was supposed to go to line up. There was one series where he ran back and forth, and then finally, on a number of plays in a row, and then at one point, Matt Ryan had to call timeout, and burn a timeout there. So and then the third weapon they have was Russell Gage. But other than that, they really don't have much. They don't really have anything on the outside that can win consistently. We saw Kyle Pitts with the big catch. We saw Russell Gage with a big catch, but we didn't really see. He had the one deep ball, and that was just on a little bit of a tough coverage there. It's a Mills concept where you have a dig with a dig across the middle with a post behind it, puts the free safety in a bind. He's either got to stay deep or come up on the dig. He jumps the dig. They beat him over the top, and Josh Norman doesn't have the help inside that he should. And that one was really on Jimmy Ward. But and that was to somebody other than Gage and the crew that I was talking about. But for all intents and purposes, Atlanta just doesn't have the horses that you're going to see from other teams in the playoffs. And if the 49ers get into a situation where their special teams is playing as poorly as they did today, it can be really tough for them come January when they get there, because they're going to get there. This one today was big for the 49ers when it comes to their playoff positioning. They came in at 7-6, 6-7. Atlanta was at 6-7. This win gives the 49ers about a 90% chance, according to the different statistical models that are out there, a 90% probability of reaching the playoffs. I would definitely expect to see the 49ers get there. They're going to have a tough game on Thursday night out in Tennessee, just because of the travel that's involved, more than, as much as how difficult Tennessee is as an opponent. But then they come home and they get Christmas off. They get some extra time at home with their family before preparing to come back home and take on the Houston Texans in another game that's very winnable. So that would get them to 9-8 for the 49ers is going to get them in, especially with everybody having beat most of the teams that are around them in the race for the playoffs. So definitely expect the 49ers to be in the show at the end of it. Yeah, Moonman says, what a game, a little up and down at the beginning, but our offense took off. Thomas got torched, though, I guess, learning the job. Well, Thomas, yeah, he's a rookie, and you kind of expect that. And, as I said in the press box during the game, there was the one touchdown to Gage early on, but then the deep ball in the second half to Kyle Pitts and was one in which, I watched a lot of film break of the guys that were coming through the draft class this year. Now, one of those was Patrick Surtain from Alabama. And what you saw happen today in this game where Pitts was able to get up on top of Thomas and beat him down the sidelines is the same thing that we saw happen out in the SEC championship game with Kyle Pitts going up against Surtain. Lined up wide, he beats him on a go route. The only difference was their quarterback there at Florida didn't have the arm to get it out in front of him and allow him to make the play, whereas Matt Ryan was able to get it out there to him. So, it wasn't anything that I haven't seen other guys, mistakes I haven't seen from other players on the 49ers or even higher level draft picks from this draft class. Thomas definitely needs to continue to grow. Remember, he's a rookie. He's a third rounder. He's going to give up some catches, but he's, for the most part, he also played pretty good, and the defense around him stepped up and bailed him out as well. Let's see what else we've got here. I don't think that, as far as on this one, don't know why we don't have Sherfield returning kickoffs and punts. I don't think that Sherfield's ever really returned kickoffs or punts in his career, so that's probably a part of the reason why. But they need to have something there, and I understand. It'd be great to have Deebo Samuel doing that too, but he's already got so much on his plate on offense. Same thing with Brandon Ayuk. There's only so many things to go around, and for the 49ers. The best thing that they can hope for is the opponent to kick the ball into the end zone. And I think the opponents know that too, which is why they're kicking it to the one and making them try to bring it out. Let's see what else we got. Definitely a good game by Jimmy. He had he had a couple throws there at the beginning, the one that was dropped, but other than that, it wasn't that bad. Biggest win versus Atlanta since 1994. No, I would say the biggest win for the 49ers since '94 against Atlanta would have been the final game at Candlestick Park. That was a tight game, if you remember, and then you get the pick at the stick by Bowman right there at the end. I think that was probably a bigger win for the 49ers with the way that season played out. Andre comes up with a great one. Hi to you too, Andre. Says Titans game off a short week will show what this team is made of. Absolutely. I think this next week is a tough one. After the game, Kyle Shanahan told his team, according to what Deebo Samuel said, and so on. There's no 24-hour rule this week. Normally, the guys get 24 hours to celebrate the victory. That doesn't happen this week because they got to turn this thing right around, and they got to be here tomorrow. And tomorrow's a game planning day. Tuesday, Wednesday, and then they're on the road at some point, probably Wednesday afternoon, out to Tennessee to play the game on Thursday night. So short turnaround. definitely going to be everybody, all hands on deck, and it'll be interesting to see how this one plays out on Thursday night. But it's definitely going to be a tough one for the Niners. Those road games are tough enough, and then traveling all the way from California to Tennessee, that's a long way to go for such a short week. On this one, the odds of Elijah Mitchell, and Savory asked, what are the odds of Elijah Mitchell and Azeez Al-Shaair being available for Thursday? With the Titans lost today, they'll have extra motivation to get a win. We're going to need all the firepower. Well, here you go, right there. I mean, Tennessee just went in and played a team out in Pittsburgh that I don't, isn't has been really struggling this year, and they lost today, and that just shows you how crazy this the NFL is, and this season. And as far as Mitchell and Al-Shaair, I don't believe that Shanahan feels very good about the likelihood that Elijah Mitchell will be able to play. He's definitely dealing with something in his knee. He's also, just looking to get cleared from the concussion protocol that might have happened on Friday. But there's been no official word on that. So we'll get more information on that one tomorrow. But that's definitely something to keep an eye on to get Elijah Mitchell back. And right now, quite honestly, the 49ers, with the way that Jeff Wilson Jr. has run the ball, he definitely looks like he's feeling better and back to being more healthy. And so, at this point, I don't know how much, the reason you want to have Elijah Mitchell is because you want to have that solid depth on the, behind him. But other than that, I don't know how much at this point I would say go with Elijah Mitchell over Jeff Wilson Jr. because the veteran is showing his health, and, let him keep going. But yeah, if Mitchell's healthy, let him get out there and get pounded a couple of times too, just to help out Wilson. And then as far as Al-Shaair, he was questionable, which leads me to believe, or doubtful, which leads me to believe he was closer to playing today. So if things keep moving along the way that they have been, I would expect to see Al-Shaair dress for the 49ers on Thursday. One injury to keep an eye on will be Talanoa Hufanga as well. He went down today. There was at one point where Hufanga was out of the game, and then you had Jaquiski Tartt injure his ankle, and the 49ers were down to only having Jimmy Ward and Jared Wilson, who was just brought up from the practice squad, was the only two that were on and they, it was 2 plays for Wilson on the field, and then Tartt was able to return. So that's another one to keep an eye on there as well. Moonman asks, what year did you become a 49er fan? I've been a 49er fan as long as I can remember, Moonman. My first 49ers game was in 1980 at the Stick. I was able to go and see, it was the Joe Montana game against the New Orleans Saints where they came back from 35 points down to win 38-35. So that's how far back I go. And then I had season tickets for the 49ers from 85 through about 2003. Let's see what else we got going on here. It looks like that's about it. But, yeah, a big win for the 49ers today. Big game coming up on Thursday. It's going to be a short week, which means it's going to be busy for everybody involved. The team's going to be busy getting themselves ready. I'll be cranking out a bunch of content. Throughout the show, you're seeing 49ers Press Democrat, 49ers.pressdemocrat.com. Scrolling across the bottom there. That is the inside the 49ers blog at the Santa Rosa Press Democrat. It's one of the few 49ers sites through a newspaper that you can get to without having to go through a paywall. There's new content that I put up on a daily basis to keep everybody informed and make sure everybody knows what's going on with the 49ers. So please, if you can, I'd ask you to do a couple things at the end of the show today. One, go to 49ers.pressdemocrat.com. Make that a favorite on your browser so that it's easy for you to get there. Check it on a daily basis. There's a great group of people there that comment, and it's kind of like a Twitter in a way, but those guys there's a group there that's really knowledgeable football people, fun to talk to. That's really how I even got into what I'm doing now. I'd started as a commenter there, and then one thing led to another. I started doing some writing, did some work for different sites, and then was able to pick up this, take over the Inside the 49ers blog for the Press Democrat in early August, end of July, early August. So please go to 49ers.pressdemocrat.com and save it to your web browser, like I said, and check that out as much as possible. Also, if you could please hit the like button on this, Send me a comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know what I need to improve on. That'd be fantastic. And then also subscribe. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, please do so. And other than that, it's been a great 49er win, like we said. Have a great night. Remember, short week. Tennessee coming up on Thursday. So keep it locked in here over the next 3 days. There will be a lot of content leading up to Thursday night. Have a great rest of your Sunday. Take care, everybody.